It's barely been a couple days and the body of Charlie Kirk has already been turned into an effigy of sacrifice. There's a dark, grim drama playing out in the United States right now, and a call for war is sounding across all media. Before we even got news that Charlie Kirk was dead, the blame was already cast. The amount of certainty on where the blame should be directed should have been enough to make everyone question the validity of that blame. The American population has been sitting on edge for a long time, but as we get more divided and more sure in our stances in the cause of our side, the more righteous our positions seem to be. Even if it's just self-validation that gives us that sense of righteousness, even though it's absolutely false because it's built on a manufactured lie. Everyone from your aunt and uncle, your grandparents, your brother, your sister, media influencers like Matt Walsh, politicians, the president, everyone spoke with a kind of directness that said that conflict isn't just a possibility, but it is preferable at this point. That unity is a foregone conclusion. That reconciliation is a foregone conclusion. That war is the only option that's left. And this is what I was talking about in the last video about the dissent, the manufactured dissent, and the comfort in which people draw from belonging to a tribe with an enemy. We need to believe that we have cause in our life. We live very empty lives. So the moment that we get a cause to get behind, we dive behind it. This is one of the reasons why Americans get so impassioned about the metaphysical. It's one of the reasons why Americans get so passionate about hypothetical situations and theories, is because we lack anything real and substantive in our lives. So we pursue a cause to follow. In the bitter communion of the death of Charlie Kirk, his followers have internalized this attack that was done to him as if it was their own. They carry that. And it's not something that's easily going to be forgotten, even though it looks like at this point, the person who actually pulled the trigger was himself a conservative, the child of a pastor. That doesn't matter because the call for a reckoning is out there. America has a history of drawing us into conflicts based on lies. And of course, this would just be par for the course, truly. The call for society as a whole to be armed, a call for society to go after one another because of ideology or true realized threat is itself a threat to the common union of this country. Even though that's been broken for a long time, it should still be an aim to pursue it at all costs. Reconciliation of our country should be the highest priority right now, not punishing the other side, because that will just further entrench people to the sides in which they already belong. You see it all over social media right now. What radicalized me? What radicalized me was this death. What radicalized me and pushed me from being a moderate to far right. But the position that they're taking, the reason for them to be driven to extremism is because of a lie, a manufactured presupposition that turns out, as is often the case, to be false. The phantasm of conflict between capitalists and communists is just, it's something that cannot die, and it's something that is tearing our country apart. But the thing is, there's no communist party. There's no socialist party. There are a few people out there who claim to be communist. And you can say, well, that's the Democratic Party. Listen, the Democratic Party is dead. The Democratic Party will never really have any power in this country. Those times are gone. The need for a new party to arise that brings that common union between the people back, that pushes us past the hatred that's born from the theoretical construction of two different economic systems. This is nothing to go to war over because there's no actual push to change from a capitalist system to a socialist system. But that's not the point. The point is to feel that you have cause. The point is to justify your sense of righteousness in this moment and for the future. To see this country carved out in your own image instead of the image of the panoply of people who actually exist here. And the amount of death threats I get on this channel doesn't mean that I turn on my countrymen as a whole. This is our country, our one country, and we should do everything that we can to maintain it and hold it together. And that's not by listening to pure propagandists and politicians. That's not going to bring our country to where it needs to be. America is collapsing, yes. America is descending, yes. But that doesn't mean that it's over. And it doesn't mean that the tides cannot be turned. And you cannot give up hope. And the only way that we give up hope is if we give up hope on our own people. This whole idea of they took one of ours, we need to take one of theirs. Who is they? Who is they? There are no sides to this. And that is the most terrifying thing. If this actually does descend into some kind of open conflict, because there are no true sides that are drawn. The only thing that we have in our future here in America is like what the Italians went through in the 1900s. Sectarian violence, sectarian bombings, stabbings, assassinations. This is what we have in store for us in the future if we continue with the narrative that we're in right now. This is the future that we have if we continue to focus on what is right in front of us instead of pulling back and looking at the greater picture. Looking at who's actually pulling the strings of these things, who's actually causing the greatest harm to us as a country and as a people. In the ease with which politicians will use tragic events like this. And yes, the loss of any kind of life is a tragedy in my opinion. As a father, as a family man, to know that there's going to be children who are raised without knowing their father, yes, it is a tragedy because it's a well-known person. Of course, there's hundreds of thousands of people dying over the world. There's tragedies happening all over the world. We can't forget what's happening in Gaza right now, but at the same time, this is our country, our soil, and it's being used right now to set up something very dark. And we need to recognize that it's being purposely done, that this situation is being manufactured, and currently all throughout media being sold to us as a viable answer to the conflict, as something that goes beyond just a moral crusade, but a true crusade. The paradigm at this point truly has to shift in order for this country to be saved beyond just this moment, obviously. When every political act, every piece of legislation, every political statement is not seen in the harm or the benefit that it does to the people, but instead simply as a victory or a loss, we are already in a state of war, in a state of conflict. And a call for a true civil war at this point makes no sense. It makes no sense unless the goal is to destroy this country, unless the goal is to destroy our people and our way of life, unless the goal is to prescribe 50% of this country. And we have to be clear that this tactic isn't the exclusive domain of one side or another. That beyond the micro, on the macro, these parties, these people, they work together against us, against the American people. And it's in these tragic events they use to solidify their stance and their position as leader. We know that they will never let a tragedy go to waste, and this is the exact situation that they are talking about. There's nothing that will divide people more than giving just cause to a righteous feeling of victimization, especially against the specter of something that isn't true. We have to be able to look beyond the spectacle of manufactured martyrdom, to look beyond the blood-drenched toga being held in front of us that's telling us to turn against our own countrymen. It's not glamorous to work towards human connection because it means that understanding that a disagreement is not a death blow to civilization and that a challenge to one's ideas is not a personal execution. We must reject the comfort of a world that's being split into heroes and villains. We must deny the easy solace of a shared victimhood because it's a slow and agonizing death to a culture, a nation, and a civilization when we let the unburied dead and ghosts of the past eviscerate the future that we have in front of us. And we're burying ourselves alive with these fictions slowly and day by day. Abolish them, do away with them, do not listen. They say that this is not a time for optimism, but I disagree. This is a time for optimism that is tempered by vigilance. The phantoms that we conjure are our own, and we feed them and we make them become real when we feed into the paranoia that has manifested them in the first place. In all honesty, the reactions to the death of this man have been so extreme on the left and right that it's hard to see any true road to peace and reconciliation in the future. But I on this channel will not give up hope, and nor should you. You should keep hope as always. Try to find common union with the people around you. Have the conversations at the dinner table that bring together instead of simply divide. And understand that this divide is purposely being held open, that we're purposely being entrenched into our sides to further conflict for the gain of others. A death is a tragedy, but a war is a nightmare that no country should ever desire to go into. Because it isn't the movies. It isn't what you read in books. It isn't what you play in video games. It is the end of our nation as it exists. And a civil war, a true civil war in the United States would break the reality of the world. Because it would be a war that goes beyond simply political sides. It's a war that goes into ideology. It's a war that goes into religion. And the world would choose sides. We can't let ourselves be distracted from what's happening around us, and that's exactly what this is being used to do. As the economy in this country continues to crumble, as the predations of politicians and the powerful continue to go unchecked, the people are now misdirected to a new subject of their ire. Once again, keeping accountability away from those who need to be held accountable the most. Thanks for stopping by.